She was 18, not a saint, not a rebel, just 18. Her name was Emily Hart, New Jersey-born, small town, flat streets, diners with sticky menus and coffee that never runs out, a mother who double knots laces, a father who checks the locks twice, a younger brother who steals fries and never apologizes. On the night it happened, the sky over New Jersey hung low and orange, like a bruise healing. Emily didn't plan to be a lesson, or a headline, or a ghost. She planned to laugh. That's all. There's a rule nobody teaches. The world changes without asking permission. And sometimes it changes because someone else decided it would. Neon signs bit the darkness like electric teeth. The bar was a familiar kind of anonymous. Sticky floors, too loud playlists, bartenders with fast hands and practiced smiles. Emily and her two best friends, Jessa and Nia, pushed through the crowd like they owned it for one night only. Jessa wore glitter that migrated to everyone else's cheeks. Nia wore boots meant for stomping on bad decisions. Emily wore a jacket her mom said was too thin for February, and a grin that said, "I'm fine." They found a corner. They ordered something sweet because bitter felt like adulthood and none of them wanted that yet. A group of guys noticed. They always do. Harmless jokes, practice compliments. Where you from? Tossed like bait. Emily took a glass, cold, cherry bright. She didn't see the hand that hovered too near when she laughed. She didn't see the calculation in someone's eyes when she turned to wave at the DJ. She drank. She danced. She told herself this was her little movie. Then the edges of the frame began to blur. The bass slowed. The room tilted. Her body, once hers, became a stubborn elevator stuck between floors. She reached for the table and found air. Jess's face wobbled into three Jesses. Nia mouthed words as if underwater. Hey, you okay? Someone said. She meant to say yes. What came out sounded like the end of a dial tone. Darkness isn't a curtain. It's a tide. It rose over Emily and took the shore with it. The room without windows was claustrophobic, clinical. Waking was a crime against nature. The light stabbed. The air sat heavy. Her mouth tasted like rust and cotton. Wrists bound. Ankles bound. A bed, metal frame, cold as a diagnosis. Walls, flaked paint, the color of old teeth. Windows, none. Bricked from the inside. Whoever built this room disliked witnesses. She tested the ropes. They bit back. She called for help. The room kept her secret. She cried. It helped for exactly 3 seconds. Footsteps. A key. The door sighed open. He was one of the men from the bar. Not the loud one. The watcher. Hood up. Hands clean. A face designed by forgetfulness. Ordinary. Unremarkable. Forgettable on purpose. "Good morning, sleepyhead," he said, as if coffee would fix it. What happened next doesn't get colors or details. It gets a locked box in the narrator's throat. You don't need to see violence to understand its weight. You only need to hear what it does to time. Days fell apart. Nights were small, cruel eternities. Food came in rations, calibrated for survival. not dignity. The bulb hummed like an insect that never dies. Sometimes there were 2 men, sometimes 3, sometimes only the watcher, taking inventory of her fear. Emily learned a new prayer without God in it: endure. She counted by subtracting: a thread from the blanket, a crack on the ceiling, the number of times the bulb flickered before it steadied. All mathematics aimed at one answer: I exist. I still exist.
When terror slept, rarely, memory slipped in. Flashback. A summer baseball diamond. Dad yelling, "Keep your eye on it," while her brother swings too early and laughs anyway. Mom clapping. The sound of approval, not earned but given. Emily steals a sunflower seed from her father's paper cup. He pretends not to notice. The evening smells like fresh-cut grass and warm plastic bleachers. Flashback. The diner. The waitress with winged eyeliner calls her hun and slides an extra milkshake to the table by accident. Emily and Jessa split it with long straws and longer plans. We'll go to the city this fall. We'll get lost on purpose. We'll find ourselves by pretending we're someone else. They laugh like the future owes them rent. Flashback. Her room. Cheap fairy lights that make even bad days merciful. A poster with a quote she doesn't understand yet: "What you run from remains inside." She rolls her eyes but keeps it up anyway. Back in the room, she collects these scenes like seashells clutched in a shaking fist. She repeats them, cuts them into smaller pieces, tucks them behind her eyelids. Memory as rebellion, memory as ration. Her inner voice stops sounding like a girl. It becomes a metronome. In, out, endure.
The accident was small. Fate rarely announces itself with trumpets. A man brought tea. It rattled in a chipped cup. His hands were cocky and careless. The cup slid, kissed the concrete, and became a starfield of shards. He cursed. He gathered pieces, not all. When the door locked, when the bulb resumed its endless hymn, Emily began the work of thieves. She shifted. She tested the rope's angle. She leaned. She felt fabric, then something not fabric, a sliver lodging against the bed's underside. She coaxed it with fingertips gone numb from twine and fear. Pain came, patient and necessary, a hot line across her skin. The rope fed on her. She fed it blood in exchange for time. Minutes were mountains. She climbed. The knot loosened. The wrist freed. Then the other. Then ankles. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She hid the coils under the blanket. She slowed her breath. She became furniture. When the door opened, she was a hinge waiting to close. He stepped in. He turned. He reached for the tray. She rose like a spring uncoiled, fingers at the table, the heavy vase cold in her hands. She swung, once, twice, a sound like a book shutting hard. He fell. The room blinked. She didn't check for a pulse. Hope is a luxury. Survival is a decision. She ran. Night peeled back into a city she'd never met. Concrete sweating walls painted with words she couldn't read, voices in a language that made her feel like a ghost at someone else's dinner table. She stumbled through a market. People stared. Not unkind, not kind, just busy. A woman offered water, pity in her eyes, question on her lips. Emily gulped, nodded, tried to shape a sentence. Help. Please, help. To them, she was a story without subtitles. Barefoot, filthy, clothes torn into questions. She pointed backward, every nerve screaming, "He's coming." Some followed her gaze, most didn't. And then, there, a silhouette, hood up, patient. Predators don't run if they don't have to. They wait for panic to exhaust the deer. Emily's lungs kindled into fire. She bolted. Blue uniforms appeared like a rumor, solidifying. 2 officers at the corner, bored into wakefulness by the creature running at them. She collapsed into their presence, a mess of tears and gestures. One understood fear, if not grammar. The other spoke a little English. "Calm," he said gently. "Calm. You are safe." It wasn't true, but saying it opened a door inside her where air could enter.
The station was cool tile and paperwork, a calendar with beach photos hung over a desk that had never seen the ocean. They gave her a blanket and a cup that wasn't chipped. She took inventory of kindness like a starving person counting almonds. Name? Emily. Emily Hart. Country? United States. New Jersey. The officer with careful eyes nodded slowly. Embajada, Estados Unidos. He pointed to a phone. We call. It took time for English to arrive. When it did, it wore a calm voice from the consulate. We've contacted your parents. We're coordinating with local authorities. You're safe now, Emily. Safe. A word that sounded like it belonged to someone else's mouth. A female officer sat beside her and offered a sandwich cut into triangles. Emily cried, absurdly, because triangles meant intention. Someone had thought about her hunger before she felt it. Forms, statements, a soft interview where the questions were fences and she was a shaken animal learning not to run into them. She learned the rest. She had been moved. Across a border she didn't consent to crossing. A body becomes a passport if someone cruel enough decides it will. She slept. Not well. Enough. Elsewhere, New Jersey, 3:12 a.m. A kitchen light. A mother with red eyes and resolute hands rewrites hope into lists. Agencies to call, numbers to dial, names to plead with. A father stares at the back door as if the lock betrayed him personally. The brother falls asleep on the couch with shoes on in case someone says, now. Jessa and Nia exist in a blister of guilt. They text each other the same sentence, "It's my fault." It isn't. They'll learn that later. They'll carry it for a while anyway. Neighbors leave casseroles like bandages that don't fit the wound. The town lowers its voice as if not to startle the dark. When the phone rings, hope sprints to the receiver and skids on fear, trying to stop. "Mom?" Emily croaks. Her mother's soul returns to her body, like a migrating bird finally recognizing its tree. Windows down, sun like a witness. They put Emily in the back seat of an unmarked car. 2 officers in front. One spoke English haltingly. The other carried silence in a comfortable way. Landscape rolled past, cinder block neighborhoods, restless dogs, a billboard promising something no one gets to keep. She stared. The brain makes pictures when it can't make sense. The officer with words pointed north. "Soon," he said. "Border. You go home." Emily nodded. She whispered home like it was magic and not a geography. They slowed in a town that smelled of diesel and tortillas. People moved like they had somewhere to be. A boy ran with a kite made from a plastic bag. It flew anyway. She turned her head left, more habit than curiosity, and there, on the sidewalk, stood the hooded man. He didn't chase, he didn't hide. He simply watched the car glide by, his gaze fastening her to the seat like an invisible nail. Emily's throat closed. Air refused to negotiate. Words dissolved before they learned to walk. Her fingers clawed the seat. The officer with words noticed the static of her panic. "¿Qué pasó? What?" She shook her head. She couldn't point. She couldn't risk drawing lines between predator and prey that might snap back. The car kept moving. The town let them go without ceremony. Some monsters don't need to follow. They only need you to know they could. The border is theater and bureaucracy welded together. Stamped documents pretending to be shields. Armed kindness. Cues that mimic order. Consular staff met her with practiced empathy and quiet competence. A blanket, water, a phone. A room with a door that locks from the inside for once. They called her parents again. They explained flights. They explained next steps. They explained nothing about nightmares because there isn't a line item for those. A nurse checked her vitals with hands that didn't flinch. A counselor spoke about trauma in simple words that didn't break when they hit the floor. "Your reactions are normal," the counselor said, "to an abnormal event." Emily nodded slowly, learning a language where she wasn't crazy, only wounded. Here's what Emily will one day say to a room where someone needs to hear it. Evil isn't cinematic, it's administrative. It fills out forms. It shops for rope. Bravery is not a roar. It's a whisper that returns every time you think you've lost it. Home isn't where you're safe. It's where you're allowed to heal. People will ask why you took the drink. Ask them why someone put something in it. Survival is not the end of a story. It's the beginning of a complicated sequel. You can forgive yourself without forgiving what happened. Memory hurts because it's doing its job. Monsters don't live under beds, they live in excuses. If you're waiting to feel ready to tell your story, you'll wait forever. You are not the worst thing that happened to you. You are the proof it didn't finish the job. These lines won't make the pain neat. They will make the mirror habitable.
Airplane, window seat, a sky indifferent to paperwork and tears. When the wheels kissed New Jersey, Emily measured the distance between memory and pavement in heartbeats. Her mother folded her up at arrivals like she was something that could be packed away and kept safe on a high shelf. Her father's hands shook in a way she'd never seen. Her brother tried a joke and failed, and tried again because that's his job. Back home, the house remembered her. The dent in the couch cushion where she always curled. The mug with a hairline crack she always chose anyway. The poster with the quote she finally understood. She slept in her bed. The sheets smelled clean and impossible. At 3 a.m., she woke up in a different country again. Her body, an unreliable translator, shouted danger in 12 dialects.
Her mother sat on the floor beside the bed with her back against the wall and breathed slowly, the kind of breathing that tells the air what to do. Morning happened. It always does. She learned that mornings can be endured without being enjoyed. Law enforcement, American edition this time. More forms, fewer walls without windows. A detective with eyes like winter explained options. Task forces, cross-border cooperation, words like extradition that felt like a bridge built over a canyon you never asked to cross. "Will he be caught?" Emily asked. "We'll try," the detective said. The honesty landed harder than any promise could. Her counselor practiced the unglamorous science of undoing. Sleep hygiene, grounding techniques, how to eat when your stomach believes food is a threat, how to walk into a grocery store without mapping every exit first. Jessa and Naya returned, humble and loud with love. They cried in a way that didn't demand anything from Emily's tears. They sat in silence competently. Neighbors learned how to say "we're here" without adding "if you need anything," because needs don't arrive in polite sentences. Emily discovered new skills, setting boundaries, saying no without footnotes, laughing again and not feeling like a thief, remembering and remaining. Sometimes she sees him in the cereal aisle, in a car 3 lanes over, reflected in a dark window that's actually her. Most times, it's not him. That's not the point. Trauma teaches the eyes to draw weapons where there are umbrellas. She learns the difference between unsafe and uncomfortable. She respects both and obeys only one. On a Tuesday in October, she takes a bus alone for the first time since. The driver nods like a bouncer, letting her back into her life. She sits near the front. She breathes through the curve where her chest usually tightens. The windows are not bricked. She catalogs this fact like a win. She will stand on stages someday, a microphone, a gym full of restless seniors about to unstitch themselves from their small towns. She will say, "Watch your drink, always. If you set it down, it's no longer yours. If a friend feels off, they're not being dramatic. Believe their body. Share locations, share rides, share exits. You're not paranoid, you're prepared. If something happens, it is not your fault. Full stop. Period. End of grammar." She will not say, "Be careful," like that ever worked. She will say, "Be equipped." And she will add for the adults who sign forms and hold budgets. Prevention isn't a poster. It's training, lighting, staff, policy, prosecution that actually prosecutes. You want fewer Emilys? Build fewer dark rooms to hide them in. College will be different from the brochure. That's fine. Plans evolve under pressure. She will major in something that lets her rebuild. Maybe social work, maybe law, maybe architecture. Because who better to design safe spaces than someone who survived a dangerous one? She will date when she wants to. She will not if she doesn't. Both are victories. Thanksgiving will be loud. She will pass the potatoes. Her brother will steal fries again, metaphorically. Her father will check the locks twice, then a third time, and she will not roll her eyes. In June, she will stand under a sky that is no longer a bruise, and she will laugh without apologizing. The sound will surprise her, and then it won't. Land the plane without forcing optimism. Some stories end with an arrest.
Some end with a courtroom. This one ends with a door that locks from the inside, a girl who knows where the key is, and a window that faces morning. Justice might be slow, indifferent, incomplete. Healing is none of those. It is stubborn, daily, inconvenient, and real. Emily Hart is not an emblem or a warning label. She is a person who went through a night that tried to make itself permanent and failed. When she wakes at 3 a.m. now, she knows what to do. Feet on floor, hand on wall. Name 5 things she can see, 4 she can touch, 3 she can hear, 2 she can smell, 1 she can forgive herself for. Then she returns to bed. The bulb above her hums silence. The windows are windows, and the sky over New Jersey is just the sky. Final wisdom, spoken simply. You don't have to become who hurt you to survive what they did. You only have to remain who you are on purpose.